Last week I had said, talking about, so we're finishing here John chapter 6, this Eucharistic theology, and I had started last week by saying, notwithstanding that they don't know what he's talking about. And I said I would talk about it this week. So here we are. It's easy for us 2,000 years removed from this story to understand at least the concept. But we can't forget that for them, for the receivers of this message, this was nuts. There is no mention of eating flesh or drinking blood in the Old Testament that isn't connected to anything other than bad, evil. That to eat, literally, in some of the deuterocanonical texts, eater of flesh is the name of the devil. So this is a really crazy concept. And then even setting that just mind-blowing thing aside, last week it started at verse 51, and he mentions eating his flesh, and he used the Greek word phage, and that would be like to dine at table. But really quickly, by verse 57, when he says, if you eat my flesh and drink my blood, he's moved to the word in Greek trogon, which is like animals eating grain, like munching would be a really good translation of that word, which is always funny when people tell me stories of, whether it was the sister when they were doing First Communion or whatever, like, just let the host gently dissolve on your tongue. There's just no scriptural support for that. Quite the contrary, it's masticate, right? It's this idea of like chewing it up to get to it. And so these people would have been like, holy crap, what is he talking about? It's nuts. And so for us today to pretend that the deepest mystery that's ever been revealed is something that you and I are going to wrap our heads around is offensive to the mystery. It's offensive. You think you, in your imperfect, finite state, are going to grasp the infinite and the perfect of this mystery? There just isn't any support for that. So I think the first thing we have to do is let go of the particularly Western philosophical mind that says if I can't understand it, then it's not knowable. And that's just stupid. We have a whole hard science called theoretical physics, where they take them. I'm on real thin ice here into the science realm, but our physics teacher at St. Francis, we talk about this a lot, where they're taking what they do know about math and what they have come to understand, and they approach it with a humility of saying, the theory is this. And it's ironic that the clerics, that the ministers have become the empiricists in our world, and the scientists have become the mystics. That's just crazy. If the ministers aren't mystical, they're not acknowledging that it's bigger than us. If God is someone I can wrap my head around, well, I don't think that's worth giving my life to. If it's something, I don't understand that. Okay, but then hold on to that mystery. You don't have to fully understand someone or something to know that person. My best friend in the world, Father Joe Krupp. I know him. I've known him for many years. I do not fully understand him. He does things from time to time that I scratch my head, and I to him. And any married couple in this room and anyone that's ever lived with another human being can say amen to that. Amen? Whoa, that was a little quick. Some of you were saying amen before I finished the sentence. Oh, yeah. Why can't we apply that to this great mystery and go? So when people say, you really say that's the body and blood of Christ? And a lot of us are like, well, yeah, how can that be? I don't know. Anyone here really want to explain how planes lift? But we get on them, don't we? Have you ever explained it? A physicist explained to me that for Bernoulli's principle to be true in all cases, the wings would be about 300 yards long. And you and I have never been on that plane. But we do. We don't know why aspirin works, but we still take it. Literally, ask a pharmacist. No idea why aspirin does what it does. But it does it, and we know it. But we don't understand it. So why can't we just say to each other, The Eucharist is is a lot of beyond my experience. I can know it. I don't have to fully understand it. It's not what's being asked of me to rationally explain it. It's to say, Father Ron Knox was an Episcopal or an Anglican priest from England, became a Roman Catholic priest, and he said, this is the funny thing about all of it, is that there's no one among us that can say we've been a really true follower of Jesus. We just haven't been very faithful. We haven't been really good at turning the other cheek and loving our enemy and seeing God in the poor. And he just kind of goes down this list, and you're like, doom, doom, doom. He's not wrong, amen? But as he said, there's one thing that we've done that we've been absolutely faithful to. And he said, and ironically, or quite to the point, it's the last thing he asked us to do, which was to keep celebrating the Eucharist. The last thing he asked of the community was keep celebrating the Eucharist. And brothers and sisters, we have been faithful to that. Even at times when the church was wrong on the issue or was missing the point, we keep showing up here to take within us his flesh and blood and to say on some level, I don't understand fully what that means. And that's not only okay, that's the point. So when you see a statistic that, percentage of people who believe in the real presence, I think those questions are loaded because, well, there's a lot of reasons. That's a whole nother homily. But I don't think it's the point anyway. The point is for us to say, I can't fully understand that, but I know it. And I know what it means to say, I want his presence within me, that I want to be able to see the presence of Christ in the poor, that I want to understand how to love enemies. I want to understand how to be more faithful, to follow him more faithfully. In the place that he said we would do that. And it's not magic. It's not a vitamin. We just take the Eucharist in and everything works better. That's not the point. That's not the message. But this is where we come to be faithful. That we let God a little more deeply at the molecular level, be a little bit more a part of us. And that is worth our time. That is worth giving our life to. That's worth pushing all our chips in and saying, I'm betting on that. That's the pearl of great price. That's the treasure in the field. Because and again, don't miss the guys at the end, right? And that's when some people say, it's just a symbol. It's a symbol. Why then, when he had a chance to clarify it, didn't he? On the contrary, when he says, unless you chew on my flesh like a cow chews its cud, you won't have life within you. That's the literal translation of that sentence. And they say, this is too hard. Who can follow this? He doesn't say, I went too far. My metaphor is too strong. Let me reshoot at that. No, he doubles down and turns to the 12 and says, are you leaving too? And notice what they don't say. They don't say, oh, we get it. We totally understand what you're talking about, Jesus. They don't even reference it. It's just Peter making the greatest profession of faith. Lord, where would we go? Where would we go? That sentence tells me they don't understand it any more than the ones with their hands on their head. But what they know is him. What they've experienced 30 verses earlier was the feeding of the 5,000. And so they could grasp it. They grasped where this was going, and they waited. And then it was revealed on the night before he died. And then the whole thing flipped upside down. And then he resurrected. And it just keeps unloading and unloading. The mystery of it all. Let us be humble in front of the mystery today in a particular way as you come forward to receive, to go, I don't have to fully understand this. And indeed, that's not even the point. But I know Jesus. And hey, brothers and sisters, if you're sitting there saying, I don't really know him, what a wonderful time to say, Jesus, reveal yourself to me. Help me to know you better in this Eucharist and tomorrow, and for all the tomorrows that I get. Because anything less is too small to be God, is too small to be eternal. It couldn't possibly cure all that ails us as a people, as a country, as a world, as a universe. It has to be bigger than us. May God be praised.